Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to wherever you are watching or listening from. My name is Jamie Robinson, and welcome to episode 271 of the Wakefield Trinity Heritage Podcast, proudly sponsored by the New Inn Pub and Restaurant in Walton, Wakefield. We're back with another Trinity BACKCHAT after our Challenge Cup quarter-final exit to the hands of the Wigan Warriors as we went down 22-26 at the DIY Kitchen Stadium. We're here to break down every detail as we possibly can. And I'm not doing it alone as ever. I am joined by my co-host, my dad, Lee Robinson. How are we doing, Dad?
Hello there, and welcome to Monday morning. It's a lovely sunny day outside. It sort of makes up for the doom and gloom from yesterday, doesn't it? So our Challenge Cup dream is over again. I'm determined to see Trinity one day at Wembley before my dying days. But we just came up against a good Wigan side again, didn't we?
Yeah, slightly different take. We're doing it on a Monday morning just because I didn't actually get to the game. I was on a stag do over in Latvia and managed to land and get back home with about 10 minutes to spare and watch the game on television whilst you were actually at the game, Dad. But just first thoughts there. Again, it's another Challenge Cup exit. Another, obviously, we've played at Wembley a couple of years ago, the 1895 Cup final, but another year where we're not going to get to a Challenge Cup final. But difficult draw for us. Leeds at home, Wigan at home, and it would have been Saints again in the semis, and then Warrington OKR in the final. So I think whoever wins the Challenge Cup this year are definitely going to deserve it. All the big teams are staying in it.
Yeah, I think it was more disappointing because simply I thought we might win this time. You know, normally when you draw Wigan in the cup, you just think, well, we're going to lose, and let's hope we do well and make a good show of it. But I think with we had a lot of hype, didn't we? You know, to say we're only a quarter final. Yeah, Wigan had lost, but they played badly in the last three. We're five unbeaten. We went in, even Wigan thought we were going to be favourites. But I heard a lovely quote from Teddy Crook on Saturday when he was doing his fitness in the gym when the Owen Ward interviewed him. There's nothing more dangerous than a wounded lion. And Wigan came out in there. But I thought in the first 13 minutes, we were 12-0 up. And I thought, here we go. This is brilliant stuff. And then the headers started creeping in, didn't they? And then within 15 minutes, it was 12 all. So, and then Wigan were a better side. You know, we could complain about various things, but they outdid us, didn't they? They had better players than us in certain areas. And at the end of the day, we've lost by 4 points to the best team in the country in my eyes. So it's not a bad thing. But I think the galling thing is I thought we were going to win this time.
Yeah, just tries and attributes here for anybody that wasn't at the game or seen the game at Wakefield Trinity 22, Wigan Warriors 26. Our try scorers in the game: Jake Truman, Kai Rodwell, Tom Johnston, and Cameron Scott. Our assist makers: Mike McMeekin, Tyson Smoothie, Max Jowett, and Ollie Pratt. Max Jowett got 3 out of 4 conversions, and our Ken rolling points for the best three players we thought was for Wakefield Trinity in this game: Jay Pitts 3 points, Isaiah Vanganar 2, and Cameron Scott won. Thought Jay Pitts was absolutely exceptional. And we'll talk about those Ken Rolling point breakdowns in the game. Dad, actually, just off the cuff here, I didn't ask you this before. Who got man of the match in the stadium?
Patrick Mago.
No, no, for Wakefield.
Oh, Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, yeah, it's fair
Yeah,
enough. I
yeah,
thought it was brilliant.
yeah.
A lot of people were talking about Max Jowett and stuff online, and Jake Truman, which were absolutely fair as well. But yeah, they were our three: Jay Pitts, Isaiah Van Gogh, and Cameron Scott. Stats breakdowns, Dad. Our main stats breakdowns here. So possession wise, Wakefield had 49% possession. Wigan Warriors had 51 completion. This was kind of the main one here. Wakefield had 78% completion. Wigan had 87. Wigan had one incomplete set in that first half. Really key detail there. Average set meters, Wakefield had more, average of 49 set meter runs per set, and Wigan had 44. 49 against 44 there. So that's for every set in the game. The average run meters there from each team. Wakefield had more. Post contact meters, Wigan had more. 660 for Wigan, 606 for Wakefield. Offloads, we were obviously trying to play a bit of a quick pace second phase game for Wakefield. 15 offloads for Wakefield compared to Wigan's five. Five line breaks to Wakefield compared to Wigan's three. We had more errors, 9 against Wigan's 7. And this is the confusing one, actually, that surprised me more. Missed tackles. Wakefield had 31 missed tackles. Wigan had 52 missed tackles. And obviously have still won by a 4 point margin there. So, Dad, anything that surprises you in those main stats that we've got through from Millsy?
And that was one when we digested them. Those missed tackles by Wigan, 52 missed tackles. I don't know where they came from. I know we sort of blasted them a little bit in the first 10, 15 minutes, didn't we? But I didn't sit down and digest that one. I also thought, when you're all sat there and look on social media, everybody was sort of knocking some of the decisions. But actually, we only made 9 errors, which isn't bad. Anything below 10 errors in a match isn't. But we all make errors. Unfortunately, our errors led to Wigan tries. And the penalties, we only conceded 4 penalties. Wigan conceded 5. So they were some of the some of the stats that jumped out at me. But yeah, those Wigan missed tackles were a strange one.
Yeah, I think a lot came through the halfbacks. I'm going to touch in a minute when we talk about the Ken Rolling points and commentary. Jonathan Davis and Brian Noble touched upon this, but Isaiah Vangenaar was targeting Jack Farrimond. I think it was a key component of our game plan. I can't say I've ever seen this in first grade rugby league, especially not in a Wakefield game. But Jack Farrimond missed 10 tackles. I don't think I've ever seen double figure missed tackles from an individual player. Now that is a lot of missed tackles, and I thought he had a decent game, but it was obviously a game plan from us, and I think that obviously that's where a fifth of Wigan's missed tackles came from. Harry Smith missed 7, Ollie Partington missed 6, and Luke Thompson and Junior Nsemba missed 5 each. So yeah, Jack Farrim and Dad missing 10 tackles. We'll touch on it a bit later on. We're talking about our game plan and where we went, but I don't think I've ever seen at top level rugby league a player miss double figure tackles there. He made 20 but missed 10.
Interesting. I never noticed that when they came through. And like you just said, Harry Smith, 7. So 17 missed tackles came from the halfbacks. So I wonder if that was a target. The big fellas, Nicotemo and Vangenaar running at them because they both did some big yards yesterday, did Seth and Isaiah. So they both ran over 150 metres. Isaiah on 146, Seth 152. So they both had a lot of ball in their hands. So they must have been running at the little fellas.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And even though I think we lost parts of this game on our own, and we'll touch on that in a minute, especially our real discipline and composure. But I think with these games, sometimes you've just got to concede that your opponents are better. I know Wigan had a tight game against York. They lost against Huddersfield. They lost in the dying seconds against St Helens. But the players that they had on the field, and the team of Wigan again. Wigan are renowned as being the best rugby league club in the Northern Hemisphere. And some players that they had and the players that they made are almost just a bit too hard to defend. I don't know. I just don't know where you go with something because you were watching it and when Harry Smith and Patrick Mago and Jay Field, who I thought were their best 3 players, I thought they were probably the best 3 players on the field. When they're on, I almost don't know how you can defend against them. I think when Patrick Mago came on, he had a hand in 3 Wigan tries. He didn't actually obviously assist, and he scored that try himself, and he essentially set up the assister for another 2 or 3 tries as well. He totally changed the swing of the game when he came on after about 18, 19 minutes. Harry Smith, just a pinpoint sharpshooter. He made 17 in-play kicks in the game, and I think I'd be confident in saying all 17 of those kicks damaged us. They were brilliant. He totally outplayed our kicking game. And Jai Field had probably a relatively quiet game from fullback, but I just think that X factor that he's got from that 20-metre restart where he realised Max was out of position, he kicked the ball about 70 metres off the cuff. I don't even think any of his own players were expecting it. He was close to getting it himself. Fortunately for us, Cam Scott and Tom Johnston got back in position. Scott knocked on, which is just one of those things. I think you can't really fault him for that. And then 3 plays later, Jai Field went under the sticks and scored himself. So, and Harry Smith got 3 try assists. So I think those 3 players, Dad, it's just hard to. Sometimes you just got to concede 3 players, 3 top level Super League players, just probably outplayed us, didn't they? Really?
They did, and they all clicked, didn't they, when Mago came on? We were 12-0 up and doing okay. And then he took Sam Esse straight off, put Mago on, and suddenly it all changed. And then Harry Smith was kicking us to death, and his kicks they were so different. When you compare the 2 teams kicking, like you said, Harry Smith 17 kicks, everyone was high. And he kicked like a golfer, sort of swinging. It was just a nice, easy swing a swing of his leg. The ball sailed up. It was so high. By the time any of our back 3, as in Jowett, Pratt, and Johnston, caught it, they were hammered by December or Walters. Compare that to our kicks, and our kicks from Lino were just long and straight and flat. So by the time Jay Field and the wingers picked it up, the turnaround, there were 20 yards in gaps and to run. And that's what Harry Smith did. He sort of targeted our right edge first of all, and Eckersley and Marshall sort of caused damage there, and the centres Kieran and Farrell. So that was a tactic as well. So I thought his kicking game was outstanding. He controlled it. Mago, I always used to get a bit jealous when Wigan had Mago, and I thought, oh, I wish we had something like that. And we have now. You know, we've got Caleb, we've got Caius Fatili, but he was more. You could actually see what sort of difference he made when he came on. And Jai Field into every time he actually got the ball, it looked dangerous. And that try he set up for himself from that long kick that we juggled and bounced, and he scored off the next set. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting how they targeted Ollie Pratt. Obviously, we spoke in previous weeks how Pratt has been excelling on the wing and he's been proving a lot of people wrong, including myself. But I think the two times this year when he's probably been a bit outplayed on the wing is one against Warrington when Mark Sneed basically kicked him out of the game, and those kicks basically won Warrington the game. Sneed was trying to kick over Pratt and obviously into the corner and trying to make Pratt fumble the ball, which worked to a T. And Sneed actually spoke about that in the post game interview. Whereas Harry Smith was he wasn't trying to kick over Pratt. He was trying to kick either on top of Pratt or just in front of Pratt. And Wigan were almost trying to play this AFL style of patting the ball back. Wigan have a very tall team. Obviously, Liam Marshall was actually on Pratt's side, so he wasn't really going to compete with him. And Liam Farrell was in that centre who is taller than Pratt, but he's not a tall bloke. I can't remember if it was Nsemba or Walters which was on that side, but either or. I mean, Sam Walters is what, 6'7", I think, and Junior Nsemba must be pushing 6'2", 6'3". So whichever, I can't remember which side, which way it was. I think it might have been Sam Walters. But Smith, every time, I think Pratt only actually fumbled one ball, which we can let him off for because the amount of kicks he had to field. But there were just a few where Farrell got above him, Walters or Nsemba got above him, and we're patting it back, and that's how Mago scored his try. Obviously, he put it into the corner really well. Wigan got above Pratt, patted it back, and Mago went in. And I think they had another two or three instances where it works like that. And Cam Scott, again, who isn't a very tall bloke, we don't really have a very tall back line to Wakefield, and I think we were just struggling with that component of the kicking game. And Dad does really smart. This is when you're coming up. You know, we want to be a top four, top six side. If we want to be playing playoff football and knock out, get into semi-finals, we're going to be coming up against better players. And Mark Sneed and Harry Smith are these type of players, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And everybody sort of commented about the players they got out with Bevan French and Jake Wardle and Havard, but they've still got some world class players, haven't they? You know, they really sort of came up trumps in the cup. They get better as the season goes along. Well, fortunately, we've got them at home in June again, and they never play well in June for some reason. And then we've got them again in August, and they're always firing in August. So I'd like to think we could drop on them again when they're having a bad run in June. But yeah, that's the sort of team. At the end of the day, they're the best team in the country. And they showed it in the end yesterday.
Yeah, and I think you touched on this. So just before we start the podcast, Wigan only played with 15 men, really, as well. Kean McDermott went off with a head knock after about 6 minutes, didn't come back. Noah Hodgkinson didn't actually play at all, and they just kind of rotated Mago and Partington off the bench, and whoever came back on. Obviously, Sam Essay, I think, only played 25 minutes. So for three quarters of the game, they only played with 14 men. Wigan.
And absolutely, and when you look at Luke Thompson, when you look at the work of that pack, yeah, your Brad O'Neill, your Thompsons, your Decembers, Walters, and Ellis. Luke Thompson only played 65 minutes, so he was off the field for 15, but he still did 222 metres, the most in the game, with from 25 tackles as well. And it's like, crikey, 21 carries. So the work they actually did, the players that were on the field. Sam Essay he started off, didn't he? I thought he started off well because he put both McMeekin and Rodwell on the back sides taking a charge, but then he missed the tackles where we scored in the first 12 minutes when Rodwell's arm came out of that tackle, and he seemed to just look at it, did Essay. And then he spent the rest of the time when he was on trying to wind up Jazz Tavanga. Quite successfully in a roundabout way. So yes, that's the sort of pack into it and Mago and Partington off the bench. A great set of forwards they had.
Yeah, let's talk about what Trinity did well. Obviously, we're out of the cup, but we'll still talk positive. I think the fact that how we are showing how that we can compete with these teams is really positive, and it shows where we want to belong. Obviously, we spoke about obviously this 5 year plan. We're 3 years into this now. We got promoted, we got into the playoffs, and now we want to be pushing even more. We're obviously quarter final of the cup, but we've been knocked out by probably the favourites for it, I imagine, and favourites for Super League. It's a massive plus for us. I think before the game, I think that the biggest testament to us before the game. us on the fans forum, everybody else online, social media and podcasts, and people like Matt Shaw and Aaron Bauer, and even the guys in the studio before the game couldn't separate this game. I think there were three games this weekend that were pretty much foregone conclusions, but nobody could really know if Wakefield or Wigan were going to win. Massive pat on the back for us for the work we've been doing and the players that we've currently got. Nobody could really separate Trinity and Wigan, and I think that the guys in the studio were a bit split on this as well. I don't think I heard anybody anywhere say that Wigan were going to win by a landslide or that Wakefield were going to win by a big point. Um, and even the actual in-game interviews, Darryl Powell and Matt Peat were both saying they thought that it was going to go down to the last play, the last minute, and it essentially did. Obviously, Wigan winning by 4 points. I think at the start, the way that Wigan started in those first 5 minutes, I thought this could be dangerous because I think nobody expected Wigan to come out and lose heavily. Obviously they lost surprisingly to Huddersfield. They only just beat York and they lost in the last 10 minutes to Saints. It doesn't happen. It's not going to happen every single week. Wigan's opening 5 minutes, and I know five minutes of 80 minutes is nothing, but Wigan's opening 5 minutes was incredible. I thought they absolutely bashed us. They put us under a lot of pressure. But the important thing for us, and again, Brian Noble said it in commentary, we absorbed it perfectly. We tackled what we needed to tackle. We absorbed everything that needed to do. And then our first two real opportunities, we had a two-punch combo, and suddenly we were 12-0 up. We didn't really get anywhere near their inside, in their own half. We made that break up the middle. Truman scored, and then off the next couple of plays after the kickoff, um, Smoothie had a nice little pass to Rodwell, and really weak Wigan defence. They will not be happy with that. And Rodwell's put the ball down, and suddenly we're looking at 12-0 up. I think Wigan were actually winning the yardage, they were winning the ruck, and they were winning the territory. And I think their fans would have been thinking, what on earth are we doing here? How were we on top of the game so much and 12-0 down? And I think that's where we did really well. And I think I would have. It would have been it's such a shame the way it went towards half time because we probably I won't say we didn't deserve it, but I think everything was showing that Wigan should have been up in these games, and obviously the better teams will always be the ones that don't perform as well but still win, and against Wigan it was pretty impeccable, and I thought we played our own game. I think it's very easy in rugby league and probably sport in general, but especially rugby league, if you're looking like you're under a lot of pressure, you suddenly start to throw the ball around or play players that you've not been practicing all week just to get yourself out of danger. We played as we do, and I think that's the thing about a Darryl Powell team is sticking to the game plan, being resilient, and we spoke about this for 2 years, 3 years now. Is being resilient and not straying away, and it's a real testament to our character and our will that we went 12-0 up. I think it was fantastic. Alongside that, I love how many questions we were asking of the defence, Dad, and I'll touch on you with this. I don't know how much, because obviously you saw it in the game and then you watched the game at home afterwards. It proves how much of it you love Wakefield Trinity. But Jay Pitts and Jake Truman especially, not so much Mason Lino, I don't think, but Jay Pitts and Jake Truman were really asking a lot of Wigan's defence, weren't they? I think they were challenging the line a lot. They were giving some excellent passes to our outside backs. But equally, I think our runners and our decoy runners were really confusing Wigan at times, especially in that first half.
Yeah, and I'd add Smoothie to that as well, because that
Yeah.
first sort of 10, 15 minutes, I thought we were excellent. That try we scored, the first one, because it was Smoothie from acting half back to Pitsy. Pitsy gave the inside ball to Rodwell. Rodwell found the gap and give the left ball to McMeekin. He broke away and gave it to Truman. I thought that was outstanding. I thought that was a world-class try. If that had been in the NRL, they'd have been playing that until whenever. And I thought, yes, they missed a few tackles in between, but that was that was all the forwards up until Truman finishing off. So yes, that's what Smoothies just added that little bit extra, and it's so quick. I watched. I usually sit in the main stand with you in the Neil Fox stand, but I stood in the players' lounge yesterday watching it from behind, and you can actually see Smoothie from a different angle. Just how quick he is at acting halfback. He's got options. He goes left. He goes right. Players follow him. There's obviously something planned every time. So yes, it's so much quicker. And with Pitsy at first man as well, we did ask a lot of the Wigan defence in that first 10, 15 minutes. Like you said, for the first, it was against a run of play really, because Wigan were in total control of that first 5 minutes. I thought, oh, we're in for a battle here. Then suddenly it was 12 all. And then it was just a couple of errors copped in, didn't there? In the Nicotemo kick through on the last, and that's not his job. And then they scored off the next set. Van Gaal dropped the ball. It was six again, penalty, and Wigan scored again, and it was 12 all. And but that's how you're playing against a good side, aren't you? But yes, that sort of first 15 minutes, I just thought it was brilliant to watch, and I was just hoping we could kick on. If we could have gone from 12-0 to 13 or to 14 with a penalty or to whatever, I thought Wigan will be really tested. But while ever it was 12, they were in it, weren't they? And like you say, 15 minutes after Rodwell scored on the 13th minute, within the 28th minute, they were level 12 all. So, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I think it can be very easy to play it safer against these teams. You know, Warrington, Leeds, Wigan, we've played so far. We've still got Saints and Hull to come up who are the quote unquote biggest and best sides in the league. You know that you're probably going to concede territory a little bit more because their kicking game is going to be better and the forwards are going to be bigger and stronger. And to play it safe would probably be an easier option. But I love that we're taking the game to these sides. And again, it would have, I think, I was going to mention Cass there, but Cass or a Toulouse or a Huddersfield, I say Huddersfield when they've just beaten them, but these type of teams would have probably maybe absorbed the pressure of what was happening to in that first 5, 10 minutes. But then Wigan would have probably scored against them with 10 minutes gone, whereas we absorbed it and then bounced back and not only scored a try but scored two. I thought we were absolutely excellent in that first half. I thought we were actually the better attacking team in that first half as well. Another thing I liked, Dad, was how we got stuck into Wigan. You know, we've mentioned on this podcast before, especially last year. I think there were times when the game quickened up a bit and when it got a bit tougher. We struggled to stay in the game, and I think sometimes it's a psychological thing. I don't think we're less fit than these teams, or we're kind of weaker or anything. I just think it's a psychological thing. And Mike Butcher is big on this when he comes on the podcast. He's coming back on Monday, and I think it's a part of Jazz coming into the team. And obviously we're going to talk about Jazz's ill discipline a little bit. But I liked how when the game got a bit rougher and a bit tougher, Dad, people like Harvey and Isaiah and Tyson stood up for it. And even though people were saying it was scrappy and it was a bit niggly and there was a bit of pushing and shoving, I quite liked that because we weren't going to let Wigan, push us over a little bit. You know, they've got a Brad O'Neill who's quite tough. He's kind of a new age Terry Newton, and he's gonna give it to you a little bit. And when Jake Connor did it to us against Leeds, we pushed back and we're not ashamed, we're not afraid of being in the arm wrestling, being in the push and shove a little bit, which I quite like.
No, we're not getting bullied anymore, are we? They tried it, did Wigan? That was the Wigan game. I was watching them a little bit. Obviously the targeted Jazz. So when he made his errors or when he gave penalties away, they were at him. They were in his face. SA were pushing on his chest. Sometimes he responded, sometimes he didn't. But we're not being bullied anymore. When you've got Jazz, Pitsy, and McMeekin all on the field, they're our enforcers. So and even Rodwell, and Caleb don't take a backward step, and neither does Caius on a when he's there. So we don't take backward steps in the forwards anymore, and we don't get bullied. Because we talked in the last few weeks about how good our defence has been. We've only conceded 3 tries in the last 5 games in the second half, and Wigan scored 2 yesterday. And one of I actually when I was at the ground yesterday, I thought we actually lost the game when we were down to 12 men because we were 12-10 up, and then suddenly we were 22-12 down. So we conceded 10 points when Jazz was in the sin bin. But the defence was still okay, and they scored one of their tries out wide when there was a gap where somebody should have been, and one of their tries was down the middle where there was no real gap. So whether we had 13 men, we could have might have conceded that. But yeah, our defence again, I thought yes, we conceded 5 tries yesterday, but again, they're the best team in the country, and when you've got a kicking game like Harry Smith, it's difficult to defend those. But yeah, on the whole, we don't get bullied anymore. We're a tough defensive side, and we're hard to break down.
And lastly, just before we touch the Ken Rolling points, I thought our attacking shape for Johnston's try in the corner was a thing of beauty. Go back and watch anybody that's listening to this. Go back and watch the highlights. If you watch these plays, it just the epitomizes the Darryl Powell style of play. It's how Dennis Solobona and Greg Eden got about 50 tries each in that generation at Castleford. Um, every ball handler from hooker to 6, 7 fullback on those players or whoever first receiver is has at least two viable options. And again, if you want to be asking the questions of defenders, you want to be putting doubt into the mind of the defensive player that they do not know who's going to receive the ball next, or even if anybody doesn't receive the ball, if we're going to dummy and go. So essentially, you end up with three viable options because you've got one player who's got the ball themselves. They've got someone coming on the outside and someone coming on the inside as well. Which is just a thing of beauty. And I think Wigan didn't know what to do. They didn't know which way was up and which way was down. I thought it was really, really impressive. And I think that's how, obviously, over recent years, Walmsley's got a lot of tries. That's how Johnston gets these tries in the corner. I think the best thing about these players and what we did yesterday when Johnson scored was when Jowett gets the ball. Obviously, Jowett is the last man because I think pretty much everyone knows that he's going to give it to Johnston. But what Jowett has to do here is when he ends up, he has to create a 3-on-2 or an overlap. And what Jowett did here was sublime because when he got the ball, I think it was maybe a 3-on-3, and his job is to either get on the outside of the second rower and create a 3-on-2, or bring Eckersley into the line and make him commit. And Eckersley actually is a good player. Eckersley, I really liked him, a big, strong body as well. Eckersley actually didn't commit quite as quick as Jowett wanted. Jowett brought him in a little bit, looked as though he was going to pass. Eckersley went for that, and he actually dummied Jowett very quickly. If you go back and watch it, it was a millisecond dummy. He did what people sometimes call a double pump, and he dummied it. And then within another millisecond, he gave the ball when Eckersley were out of position, and Johnston went in untouched. Excellent play, really, really good from Jowett, and to do all that to perfection. When you're going from hooker at Smoothie to Truman to Pitt. I can't remember if it was Pitts or Lena who actually touched the ball after or before Truman, but then it was Jowett. To do all that at pace, every single pass selection was to perfection. We didn't get out of position, and then to Jowett to do those double pumps and Johnston going in the trot in the corner, to do all that at speed under pressure is really top class, Dad, and just it looks easy and it looks as though you can do it without any problems. But I thought that was a thing of beauty, that try.
Yeah, that's what Max is good at, isn't it? It was majestic to watch because that's where, when you look at when the assists this season, Max is topping the assist list as well. He's got 10, and I reckon you add all those over the last 3 years with the season in the championship. Out of what percentage of at a time Max has had the hand on the ball, he's either scored a try or been assist. It's great to watch, and that's what he's good at, linking in, and that's what he did. He was there in the right place. That little double pump, I actually saw that myself, where he just dummied a little bit and then put Tom away. It was great to watch.
Yeah, he got 16 assists last year, and then in the championship year, he got 56 assists. So he's obviously got 10 already. That's one thing we spoke about on other podcasts. If we are going to be looking at a different option at fullback, we've got to be able to replace Jowett's try involvements because even though he might sometimes not have areas of his game that are strong, he still always kicks goals. He still always makes tries, and he'll score tries as well. So yeah, it's a different thing. But yeah, very impressive that try. Cameron Rolling points, Dad. J Pitts 3, Isaiah Van Ganaar 2, Cameron Scott 1. I'll start with J Pitts. Top draw from the Hitman. 36 years of age. I think the commentary team reminded us 5 or 6 times in the game, and we probably do it on the podcast as well. He's not getting any younger. He's 37 in December, so obviously his contract is up at the end of the year. He's got a club option on there, so they can choose to extend it if they want to. But he just seems to be getting better with age. Obviously, we've been doing this podcast now in our 5th season. Pitts has been at the club again for his 2nd stint throughout that entire uh, um, period of time we've been doing this podcast. But I'm sure he's getting better every year. Obviously, this year has been his first real bit of competition for the 13 shirt with Jas Tavanga getting in. And he's still starting. He's still starting with Jazz coming off the bench in this. We've spoken about how Darrell Powell really likes his ball handling 13s. Pitsy really stepped into that role last year when we came back into Super League, a bit like, Grant Millington was great for Castleford when he did it. I still think, even though he's been out of form a little bit, John Asiata is the best ball handling loose forward in the league. But Pitsy did this superbly, especially in that first half. He created that first try for Truman by tying up those 2 blokes in the defensive line and giving an inside ball. And outside of our 2 hookers and halves, he touched the ball the most. Obviously, you're going to expect the hooker to be touching the ball the most times, and the halfbacks obviously touching it at least once a set. Pitsy touched the ball 28 times in the game, and for a loose forward to be touching the ball 28 times is pretty impressive. Harvey Smith only touched it one more time from that. He touched it 29, and then you're looking at in the 50s for Truman and Leno, and in the 70s for Smoothie. But Pitsy just wants the ball. Give me the ball, and he passed 19 of those, and he took a good amount of runs up as well. He made 108 meters. And defensively, we call him the hitman for a reason. He made 49 tackles in 69 minutes. He didn't play the full 80. He probably would have pushed over 50 if he was playing that full 80 there as well. He didn't make a single error either. He didn't drop the ball. He didn't concede a penalty. And for the amount of times you're touching the ball, if you're touching the ball 28 times and to not make a single error, thought it was unbelievable. And lastly, I just want to touch before I pass it over to you, Dad. We haven't really talked about this in the podcast before. There's a stat that we get through called line engagement runs. So it's what Pitcher does really well. So line engagement runs are basically when you're running so far into the line that you're committing a defender to make a tackle on you, but you're giving the ball at the right time to it. Obviously, as it says, you're engaging the line and you're giving it out the back. Pitsy made three at line engagement runs in the game, one less than Truman and Leno. And ideally, it's probably their job to do it. Truman made four and Leno made four, and the Wigan boys made about four as well. So Pitsy's just engaging the line, touching the ball whenever he can. He made that try for Truman under the sticks. 108 meters, 49 tackles. Dad, best Wakefield Trinity player on the park for me.
He's one of my favourite players. I say it every time. When I was I always love a try scorer and I always love a playmaker. When you look at my favourite players over the years, I grew up watching David Topless and David Smith, try scorers, try makers. But I loved the grafter in the back of the scrum. I grew up watching Mick Morgan in the early 70s, Graham Idle in the late 70s, Nigel Bell, and I worked with Nigel Bell in the 80s. What great players! Grafting, loose forwards, ball handlers, tacklers, always the hitmen, always top the tackle count. Pitts is one of those. He's the modern day loose forward from that era. If I was a 15-year-old schoolboy, Pitsy, I'd have a picture of Pitsy on my wall. He's one of my favourite players. And he does it every week, doesn't he? Like you say, he's 36, 37 in December, top tackle count, first man receiver. We wondered where they were going to fit in this year with Jazz. I'd play him at loose forward. The way he plays, never lets us down, never makes an error. Well, he does. He makes a few errors, but when you've got the hand on your ball 28 times from loose forward, you're going to drop it every now and again. But he's also a great leader. When you actually watch him, when McMeekin goes off, and his spell, Pitts is our vice captain and our captain on the field. And he leads by example. There's a lot of team. If you went to Castleford last week and you watched Castleford behind the post, nobody talked to anybody when we scored our 7 tries. When Wigan score, it's Pitts who was doing the talking. When McMeekin's off, he goes around every player, talks to them. Great player, great bloke, great hitman, great captain, top man.
Like I say, in the next coming off season, he turns 37. His contract technically does run out at the end of the year, Dad. But the club have an option to add on another year. The way he's going at the minute, he keeps himself in top shape. He's probably one of the fittest players at the club, and the form he's on at the minute. Do you look at giving him another year?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because they're bringing Cameron Smith in from Leeds as well. So he's the sort of style of loose forward that Daryl Powell loves. So then where do you fit your 3 foot loose forwards in? You've also got your young Abrams brothers coming through as loose forwards as well. They're not ready for first team yet, but they will be soon, especially Corey. So you've got these loose forwards. It's like, where will Pitsy fit in? I wouldn't. He's my number one as loose forward. But like you say, he's going to be 37. We need to go up another level if we're actually wanting to win trophies and win league leaders shields. I'd still have him in and around, but yeah, you've got Pitts, you've got Tavanga, you've got Cameron Smith, and it's just fitting him in. Into it depends if he's thinking, right, my body's had enough. We don't know what his body's like. He's in business these days. He's got a young family. He might like to just think, right, I've done my shift. I might want to go into coaching. So we'll watch this space.
Good stuff. Two Ken Rolling points to Isaiah Vangan. We spoke about him already. The game plan I seen pretty much was to run at Farriman. Farriman had 10 missed tackles, and Isaiah Van Genam had 17 runs, 246 run meters. What I love about Ice is I don't know this for sure. I don't know if it's a game plan every single week from Powell and Kermo and Michael Shenton, but I think he gets told one thing to do and he does it to perfection every single week. Take this ball at this time, target this man, and don't stop. We've just spoke about a number of times people touch the ball. He touched the ball 17 times and didn't make a single pass. So he touched the ball 17 times and made 17 runs. Every single player, apart from Trey Lolosio, actually, who made five touches for 5 runs, at least had another pass in their game. Van Gaal, whenever he touched the ball, he just ran it, which I love, and that's what we want from an outside back rower, I think. And talk about just having one game plan, and he does it to perfection. 17 runs, 146 run meters. I'm not saying it was all him, but I think he forced Farriman to miss 10 of those tackles, and at least the majority of them. Destructive in defence as well. The commentary team we're talking about this. I think he's getting on a lot of people's names now as well because the press are talking about him a lot. He was the only Wakefield player to get in Love Rugby League's Team of the Week again this week. And we spoke about him. He was our Player of the Month in the first month of the year. He's getting into fantasy teams. He's pushing his stock up very highly now. Played another 80 minutes. He got 40 tackles, 93% tackle success. And he's getting to a point now, Dad, where he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet, isn't he? Because I think in the first season he was a young lad and we weren't sure if he was going to be back row or prop. Last year he had an up and down year and struggled to find his feet, I think, a little bit in his first year in Super League. But he's hit the ground running this year, hasn't he? And I think he's been sublime really this year for Trinity.
He hasn't he? He's getting better every week. He's sort of gone under the radar a little bit. We've mentioned it before. We didn't really give him any early Ken Rolling points in the early days, but then you watch him. When I was watching him yesterday, he was all knees and elbows. He's a devil of a bloke to tackle. You know, he's 6'4", is he? I wouldn't want him running at me all that time. And like you said, Farriman missed 10 tackles. I think I'd step out of the way with him coming with his elbows and knees. But yeah, he's causing some damage out wide now, and like you say, he's getting noticed into people are actually calling him the most improved Super League player in the competition this season.
Good stuff. And then 1 point to Cameron Scott. We also, I think Jake Truman, Tom Johnston, Max Jowett were unlucky not to get the 1 point, but Cam Scott was great again. He's been really impressive all year. I think he's been one of the top 5 best players for Trinity. So strong in defence. He made 9 tackles out of 9, 100% tackle success. Offers great protection for Pratt too. Is obviously still quite a new winger on that side. As we mentioned before, very new to that structure. I think we had a bit of another game plan on the other side to target Liam Farrell. He missed 3 tackles in the game, did Farrell, and I think the majority of those were down to Cam Scott. And I just think he's so dominant in attack. He had 7 tackle breaks, did Cam Scott. He was second behind Tom Johnston, who had 11. He had 1 line break as well. And every time he touched the ball, did Cam Scott. He looked really, really strong. And obviously got a try himself, which wasn't easy. 6 tries and 2 try assists for Cam Scott this year now. Great work and a really top player. And on top of that, I think his meters ran in the game was one of the highest for us. Just looking at Cam Scott's stats in the game, he made, where is it now? 14 runs for 161 run meters. And we're asking a lot of him, Dad, aren't we? But Cam Scott, he stands up a lot and just one of our, again, we say underrated, under the radar, whatever, but he always plays well. And I think he put Liam Farrell really under the cosh there.
Yeah, we said it before. We've got a very underrated. We know all about Tom Johnston, but we've got a very underrated three-quarter line, haven't we? Corey Hall and Cam Scott both played excellent yesterday. Ollie Pratt on the wing. He's a real handful, is Cam Scott now, isn't he? You know, he's again with the area where I stood yesterday, watched the game. You can actually see him run at you, and he was hitting those lines. And that try he scored, he blasted through 2 defenders. I think one was Luke Thompson as well, who done a right shift, and he blasted through those, and he left him on the floor and scored under the post. It was a beauty. If there was just a negative for some reason, he just kept not avoiding passing to Ollie Pratt. He kept there were a number of times, especially in the first half on that right edge, he could have put Pratty away, but he came off his right foot and went inside. I don't know, that was tactic. It was like watching Pratty of old with Tom Johnston on the outside, and he did it 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times in Cam Scott. Other than that, I thought he was outstanding.
Good stuff. Yeah, just a quick touch on Tom Johnston. His stats, his attacking stats again. Obviously, you got to try. He made 20 runs, the most for Wakefield all game, 221 run meters, the most for Wakefield all game, and 91 post contact meters. We spoke about last year at Magic when he was the first and only player to make 100 post contact meters for Wakefield Trinity. To be doing 91 against Wigan is pretty incredible. So, yeah, very unlucky not to get a point. Maybe on another day he would have done, but Tom Johnston continues to be an unbelievable player for us. What we need to improve, and I think, especially in these bigger games against Wigan, Warrington, KR, etc. Number one, discipline. I think that's the most ill-disciplined, kind of worst disciplined performance all year, Dad. There's no point lumping it all on one bloke because Jazz Tavanga knows he'll need to do better. He actually made he gave away three penalties all game. Obviously got sin binned as well. I think the main point of difference, you spoke about this earlier, between the two sides was that kind of 10-minute period when Jazz was off. We were 16-12 up when he got sin binned, and then suddenly when he came back on, we were 16-22 down. It's not impossible to defend with 12 blokes, but it makes it a lot harder. And he actually started really well, did Jazz? I think he came on his first run, he won a penalty himself. His second run, he got a really good offload that got us up into better territory. But then after that, he hit someone off the ball. He conceded a six again, and then that kick out at Liam Marshall. I just think we were talk about luck. Darryl Powell said in his post-match press conference that he thought Liam Marshall knew what he was doing. I think I probably disagree with that. I think watching back, Marshall had Hamlin Welly and Vanganar on his back. He was trying to get up himself. Tavanga was just caught in a bit of an awkward position and obviously had a hyperextension of his knee, but you cannot kick someone. It was an obvious kick as well. It wasn't like he was kicking to try and get out of the tackle. He wrenched his knee back and really fired at him. Studs were up as well, right in his ribs. Harry Smith obviously reacted like he did, and there was a bit of a scuffle. I think, Dad, that if that happened to us, we'd be screaming a red card. And I don't know if there's some new rule interpretation or whatever. I cannot see how that wasn't a red card. I think we were very lucky for him to only get a yellow. And Dad, I don't know what you think of that incident. I don't know what he's doing there. He's obviously just a bit of a he's blown his temper a little bit there. But that's a red card for me. And I think we're really lucky not to get a red card.
Yeah, I saw it better when I got home and watched the playback on television. I think it was more of a reflex thing. Yes, he got his knee caught underneath Marshall. Did Marshall roll on it? We'll never know. There's only Marshall who'll know that. He hyperextended his knee, and you could see he hyperextended his knee, and it can cause some damage. That if you hyperextend your knee and you damage your cruciate, your posterior cruciate, you're out for anything between 6 and 10 weeks. Your anterior cruciate, you could be out 9 months. So yes, if he's had some sort of injury in the past with his knee, and if you notice he had his knee strapped up already. So I reckon it was more of a reflex thing. Yes, you can't kick like that. You can't have studs out. So a referee on any other day might have sent him off. I always think these cup matches on BBC are refed a little bit differently. I don't know why, but for the better, because it was very fast, it was very efficient. He didn't give any penalties. He only gave two penalties in the first half an hour, no sixes agains in the first for a while, and he just let it all flow with it. Whether it's just the BBC saying we've got to keep it flowing, keep the players on the field, you never know. So yes, we were lucky. When you can't kick something like that in the ribs with the stud showing these days, and we were lucky. So whether he gets sorted on in disciplinary, because his points are building up slowly out of there. So unless he gets a few more points tonight on the Monday disciplinary, we'll see.
Yeah, we just can't be having that really. And I think there was one more incident where real discipline really cost us, and it was in the second half. I think it was again not to me just saying his name doesn't mean it was his fault, but I think Seth Nicotimo conceded a six again on the last tackle, fifth tackle in our own half. The referee gave a six again, and then within two or three plays, Wigan had scored in the corner. And it's funny because the BBC cameras then flashed on Jake Truman talking to Tom Johnston immediately after that try behind the sticks, and you could quote Jake Truman saying, "Penalty on the last tackle. What the f are we doing?" And obviously they realised that it was really poor from our boys there. We just cannot afford to do this. And we said again, Dad, you can't play a rugby league game without conceding an error and conceding a penalty. It's just part of the game. But we have said these silly mistakes where you're conceding on the last tackle or hitting blokes off the ball, the top teams will punish you. And looking at those, obviously that six again on the last tackle and Jazz being off the field, we conceded three tries and lost the game.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the same. We all make errors. We all concede penalties. But I was a costly. We're letting tries in on the on the next set. You had three errors in the first half, and they scored off the next set on every one. And like you just said, that penalty on the last play, and they scored again. So yes, it's just we've got to be ready when you concede a penalty or you concede a six again. We've got to be alert, and we're not. We're conceding points due to our errors and penalties.
Yeah, and just lastly, I think probably kicking game and last tackle options, especially last tackle options, was probably again one of the worst I've seen this year. I think our quality's actually dipped a little bit when Jack Sinfield's not been playing, and it's not anything really on Mason Lino. I think they are two very different sevens, and I think Sinfield plays with a lot more composure and focus. Lino is more creative and obviously more dangerous with the ball in hand. I think it's just with his experience and he knows what he's doing a little bit more. I think sometimes, and I've said this before, he has that many ideas running through his head that he doesn't know which one to choose, and the players around him don't know which one he's going to choose either. And especially with those last play options, I think they were, and this isn't all Lino. I think in the last 10 minutes of the game, the commentary and Darryl Powell said this after the game. We still had a chance to be in it, and we had two or three plays in those last 10 minutes when we were 4 points down. There, we could have easily scored a try or got ourselves into a better position, and we just blew it. And obviously, Brad O'Neill had that neat little interception, and that last play of the game where Nsemba got the ball off Cam Scott, throwing it back inside. Um, just wasn't very smart from us. And I think I'm not saying Jack Sinfield is a perfect player at 21 years old, but I think he's just a bit more focused and composed. And looking at those games he played earlier on in the year, I think we benefit a little bit more with him playing and being a bit more pragmatic. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him play against Bradford next week, if depending on what Darryl Powell's thinking there as well. And lastly, Dad, just our subs. I'm not sure why Trey only played 10 minutes. It might be he might have got injured. It might have been a game plan thing. It might have been a defensive thing. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure what you think of that. I think last week, he was brilliant against Castleford, and I think what he actually did in 10 minutes on the field was of really high quality. So yeah, I'm not sure what you think of our last tackle options and keeping Trey on the bench.
Yeah, just going back to what you said about our last tackle options when we're attacking. In that last 10 minutes, I've actually written down here. I didn't really get to, even though we were only 26-22 down and we were attacking constantly in that last 10 minutes, I didn't really get too excited thinking we're not going to break these down. We're just we made nine errors throughout the whole game, and four of those were in the last 10 minutes, just because we got a bit excited and a bit throwing the ball all over. And I talk about it just the position where I was sat yesterday or stood behind the post. You could see all the player, you could see him going left to right, and we just weren't creating anything. Our last tackle options were poor, and Wigan were ready. They just had a good line. You've talked about Lino, great player, but he's easy to read. So Wigan, because he didn't know what he's doing, he's easy to get stuck in, and the Wigan defence got stuck into him. So that was a shame, really. Just the fact that even though he's only 4 points down, we just didn't seem to look as though we were going to win. Even when Truman made that break, I thought, oh, we're off. But, it was an inside pass and it was intercepted by Walters. Jowett was the next man in. But even if Jowett had got it, there was December coming in, there was a winger coming in, and there was Jayfield at the back. I'm not sure whether they'd have scored because their defensive line was quite good. So that was a shame. Just that if we could just sort our last tackle options out, we'd be a lot better off. Yeah, regarding our subs, he did okay, did Trey last week, didn't he? But I do know that, and not the club, but he hasn't really been tested defensively yet. He's had two games against Swinton and Castleford, not really difficult games to play against, to play in. So I just wondered if they just didn't want. It was a big cup game, and our they just give him 10 minutes. Having said that, he did all right in those 10 minutes. 50 yards, five tackles, didn't miss any tackles, caused some damage. So yeah, he only had 10 minutes. I'm not sure. I'd also think I'm not sure about. Well, Harvey, we know how good Harvey is, but I'm not sure I'd play out the game with him. When we're actually, if we'd have had those last 10 minutes when we were all over everywhere and not really much pattern, would Smoothie have made a difference? So do you give Smoothie 10, 20 minutes, half an hour in the first half, give Harvey 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, and then finish the game out with Smoothie on the field? I'm not sure. It's all hypothetical, but those are the only subs that I think about. Matty Staunton didn't play yesterday. Was it because he had an injury and came off against Castleford, or was it because they wanted Nicotima in because he gives cover in the centres as well? Or is it just Darryl rotating his forwards again? Would there be any changes next week? I'd love to see Caius back for the Bradford game if he's fit, but other than that, who knows?
Yeah, brilliant. And we'll be talking about all of that against Bradford in the Bellevue breakdown this coming next couple of days with Mike Butcher and yourself, Dad, as well. So thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 271, the Wakefield Trinity Heritage Podcast. You can find us on podcasting platforms worldwide and on social media as well. And on our YouTube channel, we've just hit 460 subscribers. So we're going to push to 475 soon. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to this and you haven't clicked the subscribe button just below, give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Give us anything you want because it's flying this year and we're really, really thankful. Massive thank you to my co host, Lee Robinson. We'll be back in a couple of days, like I've already said, with the Bellevue breakdown ahead of the Bradford Bulls home game on Saturday afternoon alongside Mike Butcher. I have been Jamie Robinson and we will catch you all down the road.